The galaxy had always been full of noise. Fleets moving, empires arguing, merchants trading across the stars. Signals filled every channel, and even in war there was always sound. But then something new appeared, and for the first time in centuries, silence spread faster than light. It began at the edge of the Orion spires, where patrol ships of the Threxian Empire noticed a shadow moving against the stars. At first they thought it was an error in their scanners. No single vessel could block out constellations. But the shadow grew larger every hour. The patrol tried to send reports, but their voices shook. Object approaching. Size unknown. Too big to classify. Within a day, the entire sector was talking about it. The shadow was not an asteroid. It moved with purpose. It did not drift. It followed a perfect course, steady and unbroken, heading straight into the heart of the galaxy. Its path was so direct, so certain, that even the bravest admirals felt a chill in their bones. The first clear image came from a deep space observatory. It was not a fleet. It was a single ship larger than a moon, shaped with angles and armor no alien design had ever shown. Its hull was dark, as if it swallowed light itself, and its engines gave off no heat. The scientists could not even measure its power. They only knew one truth. Nothing this massive should move at all, yet it did. Fear spread faster than any weapon. The news reached the council worlds within hours. Across empires, leaders who had not spoken in centuries opened emergency channels. The Karak broods hissed in panic, the Velnar dynasties sent desperate warnings, and even the machine collectives paused their endless logic to whisper one word: Titan. Nobody knew who had built it. Nobody knew why it had come. But in the archives of the oldest races, there were fragments of stories, old myths that spoke of a species called humanity. A species that burned like fire, fought like beasts, and then vanished without a trace. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others believed they had gone into hiding, waiting. Now the galaxy asked itself the same question: was this their return? On the trading moon of Calais, crowds gathered in silence around public screens showing the ship's advance. Children clung to their parents. Merchants shut down stalls without a word. Even the air seemed heavy. On the frontier worlds, militias powered up defenses but did not dare fire. Across the great empires, whole fleets stood ready, yet none moved to intercept. The Titan did not send a signal. It did not answer hails. It did not slow down. It only moved forward, patient and unstoppable, like a god walking through a field of ants. Its silence was worse than any threat. Admiral Seric of the Zaylan Guard, who had faced 3 wars without fear, stood before his fleet and could only whisper to his officers, "We are not ready for this. None of us are." His words were recorded and spread like wildfire, shaking morale across the stars. The closer the Titan came, the more systems it passed, and yet it never attacked. Not a single weapon fired, but each empire that watched felt as if the ship was studying them, remembering them, weighing them like prey. Every alien ruler lost sleep, wondering if they would be the first target. By the 5th day, entire planets lived in dread. The Titan's shadow now reached the center of the galaxy, and everyone knew where it was heading, the Council's homeworld, the one place where every empire gathered to make decisions. Some believed it was a declaration of war, others believed it was judgment. None believed it was peace. In the grand chamber of the Council, leaders argued without pause. "We must strike it now," shouted the Zarathi warlord. "If we wait, it will be too late." "No," hissed the cold-blooded Nivra queen. "Attack and we invite destruction." "We must wait. We must listen." But the Titan gave them nothing to hear. Its silence was the only voice, and that silence spread through every star system like a curse. For the ordinary people of the galaxy, fear turned into quiet awe. They saw the ship's size, its stillness, its patience, and they felt something older than terror. They felt respect. They felt the weight of history returning. Stories began to rise again. In dark corners of space stations, whispers grew. "It is them! It must be the humans! The ones who left long ago. The ones who were said to never forgive." On the 7th day, the Titan warship crossed into Council territory. Thousands of ships followed at a distance, recording, watching, but not daring to move closer. The ship's hull reflected nothing, a black mirror drifting through the void. Children on council worlds looked up at the sky and screamed because the ship was so large it blocked out the stars. Whole cities fell under shadow, as if night itself had descended in the middle of day. No signals, no warnings, no demands, only the endless silence of the Titan. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy froze. And in that silence, every race knew one thing. Whatever this ship carried, whatever it meant, nothing would ever be the same again. The Titan's arrival was no longer a rumor. Every screen, every broadcast, every private channel spoke of only one thing: the silent warship that dwarfed moons and made entire fleets look like toys. It had crossed into council space without resistance. It had ignored hails, warnings, even desperate cries. It was not rushing. It was not hiding. It was simply moving forward, steady as destiny, across the galaxy. Fear took many shapes. On the ice worlds of the Velnar dynasties, nobles locked themselves inside crystal palaces, afraid even to speak the ship's name. In the hive tunnels of the Karak broods, workers abandoned their drills and refused to enter the mines. Even the machine collectives, who claimed to feel nothing, shut down entire networks as if the presence of the Titan bent their logic into silence. The galaxy had seen many wars, armies of trillions, fleets that filled systems, weapons that cracked planets. But this was different. Wars had always been loud, violent, full of speeches and fire. The Titan gave nothing. No roar, no flame, only silence. That silence was worse than any weapon, because it left every empire wondering what it meant. In the council chamber, leaders argued for hours. "Strike it now," the Xerathi warlord demanded, slamming a claw on the table. "If this is the first of many, we cannot wait for the rest." "You are a fool," hissed the Nivra Queen. Her scales shimmered cold blue under the chamber lights. "If that ship is only one, and it makes us tremble, what happens when others wake? If we fire, we invite our extinction." The machine envoy, a shifting cloud of metal fragments, spoke with a flat voice. "The probability of survival decreases if we act without information. The Titan's technology is beyond measure. We must delay," but delays did not stop the fear spreading through the common people. On trading stations, entire markets shut down. Merchants refused to cross routes that lay near the Titan's path. On frontier planets, militia commanders forced curfews. Children were told not to look at the sky. Even pirates stopped raiding, choosing instead to hide in empty systems, whispering prayers to any gods they remembered. It was not only fear, it was memory. In the oldest libraries of the galaxy, fragments of records were pulled from dust and darkness. They spoke of a species called humanity. The records were broken, incomplete, but they painted a picture no one wanted to believe. Humanity had once spread like fire through the stars, building ships that outpaced every rival, fighting wars that burned whole clusters. But then, without warning, they were gone. No graveyards of ships, no ruins, no signals. They had vanished, leaving only shadows in the stories of other races. Some said humanity destroyed itself. Others believed it had gone to sleep. The most fearful believed they had chosen to wait. And now, with the Titan warship gliding silently through council space, the whispers returned. Humanity had not died. Humanity had been watching. On the capital world, crowds filled the streets, staring at the sky as the Titan passed above. It was so massive it covered the sun for entire districts. Towers fell into shadow, rivers turned black beneath it, and for the first time in centuries, the great capital was quiet. The usual roar of traffic, voices, trade, all silenced by the presence of a single ship. In the shadows, a boy tugged at his mother's sleeve. "What do they want?" he whispered. She had no answer. No one did. The council ordered fleets to surround the warship at a distance. Thousands of ships formed rings around it, weapons ready, but none dared fire. Each commander gave the same order: "Hold your fire. Do not provoke." They all knew the same truth. If the Titan responded, no fleet would survive. Admiral Seric, who had once fought 3 wars without fear, stood on his flagship, watching the giant vessel on the view screen. He clenched his fists, but did not give the order to attack. He felt something deeper than fear, something he had not felt since his youth. He felt like prey. Across the stars, propaganda machines tried to calm the public. Leaders called for patience, for unity, for courage. But the people saw the images themselves. They saw how small even the greatest fleets looked beside the Titan. They saw the shadow that blotted out suns. No words could erase that sight. And still, the Titan sent no signal, no declaration, no demand, no warning. Only silence. The longer it stayed silent, the more fear grew. Because silence meant intent, but no one could guess what that intent was. Empires that had hated each other for centuries now whispered the same thought. What if it remembers us? What if we are already judged? On the 10th day, the Titan passed over the last defense line before the Council whirled itself. The fleet stationed there, the largest in the galaxy, stood frozen. Not a single ship moved. Not a single weapon fired. The Titan glided past them as if they did not exist. In that moment, the truth became clear to every soldier, every admiral, every leader. The Titan did not see them as equals. It did not see them as rivals. It saw them as nothing, and that thought was worse than death. For 11 days, the Titan moved without a word. Its massive hull crossed star systems, passed through defense lines, and cast shadows over entire worlds. The silence had become heavier than any battle cry. It was not just a ship anymore. It was a question hanging above the galaxy. But on the 12th day, everything changed. It began with a pulse. Not a weapon, not an explosion. A single wave of energy spread across space, reaching every fleet, every world, every station within light years. Alarms screamed across ships, but when engineers checked their systems, they realized the pulse was not an attack. It was a message. The signal was not in any alien language. It was not even in sound. It was pure code, ancient in design but perfectly clear. At first, translation programs failed, spitting out gibberish. But then, in old archives, deep in the Council's hidden records, a key was found. It matched fragments of a language long thought extinct, the language of humanity. Across the galaxy, screens flickered. Commanders, leaders, even common citizens watched as words appeared in their own tongue. Every translation was the same. This is the first contact of humanity. We come not in peace. We come with memory. The words spread like fire through the stars. Fleets froze. Leaders turned pale. The people whispered in fear. Not in peace. What did that mean? And what was this memory they carried? The council chamber erupted in chaos. This is a threat, shouted the Zarathi warlord, his claws digging into the table. We must prepare every weapon. Humanity declares war. No, hissed the Nivra queen, her cold eyes flashing. If they meant war, we would already be ash. That ship could have burned a dozen worlds by now. They wait. Why do they wait? The machine envoy spoke again, its voice flat, but a tremor of static broke its calm. The phrase, with memory, must be decoded. It implies intent tied to past events that we may not wish to remember. In the darkest corners of the galaxy, the words carried a deeper fear. There were old stories, told only in whispers, of battles fought long ago against humans. Battles where entire armadas vanished. Battles where alien lords begged for mercy and none was given. The archives had buried those records as myths. Now no one knew if they were myth at all. On frontier stations, citizens gathered in silence around glowing screens. The message played again and again, only 3 lines, but enough to shake empires. A child on one world asked her father, "What do they remember?" The father could not answer. The Titan did not speak again. After the pulse, it returned to silence. But the silence now carried weight, because the words had burned into every mind. Humanity had returned, and they remembered something. The council sent envoys, small ships carrying peace flags, coded signals of respect. They approached the Titan carefully, weapons unarmed. None returned. Their signals vanished as soon as they neared the black hull. No debris floated back. No screams over comms. Just silence. That silence was answer enough. Admiral Serrick stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the message on his screen. He had fought wars, but this was different. His officers waited for orders, but Serrick only said, "They do not talk to us. They talk to the galaxy itself." Across the empires, paranoia grew. Each race asked itself the same question. If humanity had returned with memory, what did they remember about us? Did they remember betrayal? Did they remember wars? Did they remember mercy, or did they only remember blood? The galaxy split in fear. Some rulers demanded preparation for war. Others called for surrender before war even began. A few whispered the unthinkable. Perhaps it was better to flee. To leave the galaxy entirely, abandon the stars, and hide in the void. The Titan kept moving. It did not fire. It did not reply. It did not show its crew. It only followed its path, heading straight for the Council homeworld, the heart of galactic power. On the 15th day, it entered orbit. The capital city fell under shadow. The sun vanished, replaced by a black wall of steel that stretched across the horizon. For the first time in history, the capital was silent. Billions of voices fell quiet as one. Then, at last, movement. A section of the Titan's hull opened. Not a weapon, but a door. Light spilled out, white and sharp, cutting through the black. A single, smaller craft descended from the giant ship, gliding toward the surface like a drop of fire. The Council armies scrambled, weapons locked, but no one fired. The craft landed in the center of the capital's grand chamber courtyard. Its hatch opened. From inside, a figure stepped out. It was no alien, no machine. It was flesh and blood. 2 legs, 2 arms, eyes sharp as blades. A human. For centuries, they had been myths, ghosts, whispers. Now one stood in the flesh, walking calmly through the courtyard as if the galaxy itself did not matter. The human did not carry weapons. They did not need to. Their presence was heavier than any gun. The council guards, hardened soldiers of many races, found themselves trembling without reason. The human looked at the gathered leaders, their voice cold, steady, and heavy with something the galaxy had almost forgotten. We remember. The meeting. The council chamber had hosted kings, warlords, machine minds, and endless debates. But never had it been so quiet. Every eye turned to the human who walked across the marble floor. Guards lined the walls with weapons ready, yet none dared move. It was not courage that froze them. It was something older, instinct. The human looked small compared to the towering insectoid rulers and the armored reptilian lords. Their body carried no armor, no weapon, no crown, but their steps were calm, steady, and without fear. Every leader in the chamber felt the same thought. This was no visitor. This was a judge. The envoy stopped in the center, beneath the great banners of the council. A silence stretched, long and heavy. Finally, the human spoke, their voice carrying through the hall without need of amplifiers. "We remember." The words echoed, sharper than any blade. No one replied. The alien leaders stared, but none dared speak first. The Nivra Queen finally broke the silence, her voice hissing. "You claim to be humanity, a ghost from the past, yet you appear with a ship that defies reason and a threat that freezes the stars. What do you want?" The human's gaze turned to her. Their eyes were not angry, not kind, but heavy like stone remembering the chisel. "Want?" the envoy repeated softly. "You ask what we want, when it is memory that brought us here?" The machine envoy flickered, its fragments spinning nervously. "Clarify. What memory drives your return?" The human raised a hand, and a small device activated, projecting images into the chamber. The council watched as stars filled the air, forming maps of ancient wars. They saw fleets burn, worlds shatter, and armies fall. The human's voice never rose, but each word struck like thunder. "You built empires on our bones. You wrote treaties in our blood. You told yourselves humanity had vanished, destroyed itself. That was the story you chose to believe." The projection showed alien fleets surrounding smaller human ships, crushing them in endless battles. Then images of betrayals, alliances broken, colonies erased, humans hunted until their signals went silent. "You hunted us," the envoy said. "Not all of you, but enough." And when we withdrew, when we chose silence, you told yourselves we were gone. The chamber fell cold. Many leaders shifted uncomfortably. Some knew these images were true. Their ancestors had fought those wars, had buried those truths. The Zorathi warlord slammed his claw down.
That was ancient history.
We are not those rulers. Why should we suffer for their crimes? The human's eyes turned to him, and for the first time, a flicker of something moved across their face. Not anger, something colder, because memory does not fade. We were not gone. We watched, we waited, and we remembered who broke faith and who honored it. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The implication was clear. Humanity had records. Humanity knew every betrayal, every ally, every debt unpaid. The Velnar matriarch, her jeweled robes trembling, tried to keep her voice calm. If you remember, then tell us. Why come now? Why return after so long? The envoy's voice dropped lower, and the words felt like a chill across every soul. Because the galaxy still lives in chains of fear. You build fleets, not peace. You raise empires, not trust. We see the same patterns. We see the same hunger. You have not changed. For a long moment, no one spoke. The leaders who once shouted over one another now kept their mouths closed. Then the machine envoy, its voice breaking with static, asked the question none dared. "And what do you intend?" The human let the silence hang before answering. "We are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy. We are here to remind." The chamber stirred, confused. The Zorathi warlord snarled, "Remind us of what?" The envoy's voice sharpened. "Of what humanity is, of what we endured, of what we became." Behind them, the chamber windows darkened as the Titan shifted in orbit. Its massive form turned slowly, revealing endless rows of weapons, hangars, and engines older than most civilizations. The sight silenced every murmur. "This ship is not alone," the human continued. "It is the first. Others wait deep in the void. We did not die. We did not vanish. We prepared." The council leaders felt the weight of those words pressed down on them. Humanity had not disappeared. They had hidden, built and returned when the galaxy had grown soft with arrogance. The envoy stepped closer to the council's central dais, their voice quiet but heavy with finality. "We will not rule you. We will not kneel to you. We will not vanish again. You must decide whether you stand with us or whether you stand against memory itself." The chamber froze. No one spoke. No one moved. Every empire, every ruler, every soldier watching from a distance felt the same truth. The galaxy had changed. The Titan hung in the sky like a second sun, silent, patient, waiting, and beneath its shadow the galaxy trembled, knowing humanity had not returned as friend nor as foe, but as something far greater, as judge. The awakening, the council chamber did not breathe. The human's words lingered in the air like smoke, heavy and inescapable. Every leader felt it. There would be no return to the way things were. The Titan in orbit was not a visitor. It was a warning. The envoy stood silent, their eyes scanning the chamber as if measuring each ruler. No one dared speak. The Nivra queen, who had commanded armies for centuries, lowered her gaze. The Zorathi warlord, who had never bowed to any empire, clenched his claws but said nothing. Even the machine envoy, whose logic had never faltered, fell into static silence. The human finally spoke again, voice low but carrying to every corner. "You built your galaxy on fear. You chained weaker races. You burned worlds when they resisted. You told yourselves it was strength. But we watched, we remembered, and now you will face what you made." The chamber shook as the Titan moved. Its massive hull blocked out the sun entirely, plunging the capital into darkness. From its surface, thousands of lights flared to life, like stars awakening. But they were not weapons firing. They were signals. Across the void, hidden far beyond the edge of known space, other lights answered. The galaxy gasped. At first they thought it was a trick of sensors. Then images appeared on every fleet's screens, dozens of Titans, then hundreds, rising from the black of deep space, their hulls glowing faintly as if they had slept for centuries. Whole constellations shifted, because what had once been mistaken for dead asteroids now moved with purpose. Humanity had not returned with one ship. They had returned with a fleet of giants. On frontier worlds, children cried out in fear as skies filled with shadows. On pirate stations, raiders abandoned their strongholds, believing judgment had come. Even the proudest empires felt their courage collapse. No one had prepared for this. No one had imagined that a forgotten race could hide such power in silence. The machine envoy's fragments spun wildly, voice-breaking. This scale, impossible, unacceptable. No civilization can... The human cut them off with a single glance. You thought us extinct. You told yourselves lies to sleep. But extinction was never our fate. We chose patience. The Velnar matriarch trembled, her jeweled hands clutching the dais. If you have this power, why not destroy us? Why come with words instead of fire? The envoy's eyes narrowed. Because destruction is easy, memory is harder. You must live knowing we endure. You must live knowing the balance has changed. The words struck harder than any threat. It was not conquest the galaxy faced, it was a shift of order. Humanity had declared itself judge, not king, and judgment was colder than war. On the capital world below, crowds filled the streets, staring at the sky now covered by Titans. Whispers passed through the masses. Are they gods? Are they demons? What do they want from us? No answer came. Only the endless presence of ships too vast to comprehend. Admiral Seric stood on his flagship, staring at the incoming readings. His officers waited for him to order battle, but his voice was hollow when he finally spoke. We cannot fight memory. We cannot fight what was always waiting for us. In the chamber, the envoy gave the last words. We do not seek to rule. We do not seek to beg, but we will no longer be silent. Remember us as we remember you. Treat the galaxy with justice, or face the weight of what waits in the dark. They turned and walked back toward the courtyard, every step echoing. No one moved to stop them. No one dared. Outside, the smaller human craft rose again, returning to the Titan above. The Titans in orbit shifted formation, their engines humming with power older than the Council itself. One by one, they turned toward the void, disappearing into the black. But they did not vanish completely. They lingered at the edge of every sensor, watching, waiting. And the galaxy knew. Humanity was no longer myth. Humanity was no longer gone. Humanity was awake. On distant worlds, children asked their elders what would happen next. The elders had no answer. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's future was not in the hands of the Council, nor of the great empires, nor of the machine collectives. It belonged to the humans who had returned from silence. The Council chamber remained frozen long after the envoy left. No ruler could find words, no plan could be made. They had seen fleets burn before, but never had they seen a judgment passed without a single shot fired. Far above, the Titan warship drifted silently, its presence heavier than gravity itself. And in every heart across the stars, one truth grew like fire. The galaxy would never be the same again.